Man, Boy Cavalier definitely did not watch Blade Runner because if you want to get murdered by synthetics, this is how you end up getting murdered by synthetics. Hello, interwebs. I hope you are all doing well, and I am here to review the latest episode of one of my continuing to be favorite shows this year so far, Alien Earth, episode 4, titled Observation. Before we get into this episode, I want to apologize a little bit in advance that this review is going to probably be a little bit shorter and a bit more off the cuff and less in depth as I usually try to go into with my reviews, for two reasons. One, if you notice that my setup is a little bit different today, it's because my computer is in the shop because it crashed and I'm currently working off of my laptop at the moment, and it's a older laptop that I don't really love. So my editing is probably going to be a bit rougher. The video is probably going to be a bit rougher. So apologies on that front. And then on top of that, I am actually leaving tomorrow to travel for a week because I'm going to be appearing at Dragon Con this week. I'm actually going to be on a panel with my wonderful friend, Dr. Aaron McDonald, who many of you may know as the science advisor for the Star Trek franchise, but is also just a good friend of mine and the producer of my movie Identities. We're actually going to be doing a panel at Dragon Con about Tuvix, of all things. We're going to be arguing over the ethics of Tuvix, which will be a really, really fun time for both of us. So if you are at Dragon Con in Atlanta this weekend, come see us. I believe our panel is sometime on Friday. It's on the Star Trek track. So it should be a good time, and I'll be around there for most of the week as well. So you can come hang out and say hi if you're there. But then after that, I'm leaving on Saturday and going home to New York for family reasons because there's a fun big family event going on for my family that I'm not going to get into, but it'll be a good happy time to see everybody. But it does mean right after I'm done recording this and uploading it, I have to go pack because I have been rushing to try and get everything done before I go. So I'll be gone for being gone for a week. So with both of those things kind of looming over my head, this is probably just going to be a little bit of a quicker video. And also just to note, I will be reviewing Peacemaker episodes 2 and 3 next week. So no review for Peacemaker this week, and I'll review both episodes next week. And anything that I missed from this review of Alien Earth, if you let me know in the comments, like, oh, you didn't talk about this, I will try and talk about it next week. So if there's anything you miss and you want me to talk about it, just let me know in the comments. I will get to it. But let's talk about this episode. Enough preamble here. I am continuing to really love this show because it is doing stuff that I personally really love. I I really love shows that tend to get long and philosophical and have big philosophical conversations with characters, about morality and ethics and science, what it means to be human and all of that jazz, identity and body relations. That's 150% my shit. It's why I even like something like Prometheus, because it is a lot of philosophizing about all those topics, even if the movie itself is not particularly interesting on a plot level. So I look at this episode and I go, I 100% love it. Like this whole episode is 100% of stuff that I adore. That being said, I can 100% see, and I've heard this criticism already leveled at other episodes, and I don't think this episode's going to help in any regard. That this show is really slow. It's not getting to the xenomorph action of it all, and I think that's a legitimate criticism. I'm not saying like, oh, if you just want action, you're dumb. Like the point of stories is you get kind of a mixture of the two. For me, I generally don't mind people sitting in a room and just having philosophical conversations. That's 100% my jam, but I also get that it's not a thing for everybody. But for me, I really enjoyed this. I love all the small ways we get to see Boy Cavalier, and how he just has that, capitalist tech oligarch mindset, and how he's sort of spread that around everyone around him. It very much gives that Silicon Valley kind of capitalism idea that's going on here, because when he goes in to see Wendy, he's immediately already comparing her to the other lost boy slash girl, who last episode was talking about, like, she wants to be the favorite and I can speak French. But when Wendy starts projecting the sound of the alien, like the wording of the alien, which also I like that transhumanism, like use your voice as a speaker sort of thing. Like that's just a cool concept, and imagining that. and being able to play that noise. But his immediate response to that is to say, "Oh, you can speak French, but can you do that?" And he's already playing favorites and setting these two characters to view each other against each other, like this competitive mindset for his attention. And he does it reflexively. It's not even necessarily that he's like instantaneous, like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a mind game of having them set against each other," but it's his instantaneous reaction of like, "Oh, she's better than you." And it creates that competitive mindset. And you can see how that comes down with Sylvia when she, and I guess her husband, we learn that the scientist guy is her husband, Arthur, even says something like, "Oh, he's a, like, maybe this is why Boy Cavalier gets ahead. He's a risk taker. He goes ahead with things that, might be dangerous," which is again that capitalist mindset. It's how all of these people like Elon Musk and, Zuckerberg or whatever, Steve Jobs, all kind of sell themselves as is like, "Oh, we're disruptors. We're gonna take risks. We're like Captain Kirk's going out there, boldly going, and just risk is our business," sort of nonsense that isn't safe, isn't actually science, as Arthur points out. And like, sure, Arthur is a very cold kind of guy. He views people like Wendy and everyone, not like, no one really sees any of these kids as actual people. I think the only one is Wendy's brother. He's literally the only one that kind of still sees them as human beings. Everyone else just sees them as property or thing or science experiment. Kirsch is he sees them not only as not human, but saying you should evolve to be just more like me, become more like a machine, and stop caring, you're evolved, you're beyond human stuff, even though he himself is being exploited by Boy Cavalier, who constantly belittles him and looks down on him throughout the episode. I love like, you just get the sense of like Kirsch, like, I fucking hate this kid, but he is also being controlled by him. But he also views these kids as, like, you keep saying, grow up, be an adult. Like, this is what being an adult is. And so he's constantly pushing them to never allow them to be kids. And again, Wendy's brother is the only one that sees them that way. But again, going back, like, we Arthur is also correctly pointing out that Boy Cavalier is not following science at all, and he's not actually trying to like actually learn and do things and get scientific experiments and like try to understand things truly. He just wants to boldly punch ahead and try and win, which is not how science and actually building up humanity is done. It just reminds me so much of how all of these tech oligarchs think they want to build Star Trek, but they just want to build the Expanse. In reality, like, they have pie in the sky dreams of building their utopian future, but their mentality is just so set on just capitalism in space, essentially. So, like, seeing all of that stuff here, and I like the conversation. I keep forgetting his name, so apologies. Wendy's brother, who he has that conversation with Wendy, and Wendy is trying to be like, I where were you? You could see how she might have some resentment about her brother not being there for her, even though it was not his fault. He was himself being exploited by the company, off fighting some war somewhere on the other side of the earth, and not even able to know that his sister was alive because they kept her from him, the knowledge that she was alive in some way, shape, or form from him. But then you get Boy Cavalier turning that against her, and again, she's a kid, and you can see how Boy Cavalier says he wants an intellectual conversation, but he is just manipulating Wendy, constantly pushing her to be like, "Oh, stop, what is please, isn't, you should have an intellectual response, like, what kind of good argument is that? If you do someone for me, I'll let you keep your brother around, kind of like a pet, essentially, is it for good behavior, but you should kind of be evolved beyond him. He's not really your brother. We should be beyond families and stuff like that." And again, it's just this desire to control, even though he says, oh, he wants to have something that is equal to him or surpasses him. He doesn't really want that. The other two things here that are interesting is we get, I forget her name, but the one of the lost, I keep saying boys, but it's weird to say that, but the one who says she's pregnant, and you can tell she's having a form of body dysphoria. Even Sylvia, body dysphoria, I should say, where you can even see Sylvia says like something is like, "Oh, I should have eased you into your transition, and helped you understand your bodies more." And again, it's body dysphoria, not necessarily gender dysphoria, but there is overlap in terms of like how we're discussing it. Just as a trans person, it's the same sort of ideas of like, she's having dysphoria and disconnect from her body, this body she was assigned and told to have. And she wants to, and like especially tying it into pregnancy, like being like, oh, I want to be this way, and I was forced to be something that I'm not. And it's this interesting conversation about body dysphoria, control, capitalism, what things are malleable about biology or not. Like really cool questions, and you can see her kind of trying to just not reckon with the situation and not wanting to handle it because she's a kid. She doesn't know how to, and no one wants to really give her the tools. And so she lashes out in a childish way, and people view her like Sylvia literally calls in the guards to put her away. And it's literally like just viewing these kids as, not someone to try and help through, but just fearing them and viewing them as weapons or objects or not real, not full people with rights. And that repeatedly comes through here. We also get a couple interesting conversations with Wendy's brother, with the sort of second in command under Boy Cavalier. Basically, you can see again, he's able to control Boy Cavalier, saying you'd have to pay us back. If you quit, you wouldn't be able to see your sister. She's property to us. So again, all these conversations about how his life is controlled by these corporations, and everyone's life is controlled by these corporations, and how they can kind of force him to do what they want him to do based on, property rights and things like that over literally his sister. And they want him to do kind of a Turing test of sorts to see if she's really his sister, if she passes and stands up to muster of actually being her. There's also a quick little thing here where Boy Cavalier is talking about his lung. I keep forgetting his name. The brother's lung. And they say, "Oh, you should have seen what we did with your original lung." Obviously, they put a xenomorph into it, so they're fucking with it in that way. But I also wonder if that's the show making a sly reference to the fact that they also killed the original Wendy. And there was an interesting comment, and this is a longer philosophical conversation that I don't have time to get into right now. But, I mentioned that conversation about did they kill the original body after they uploaded a version of Wendy's consciousness into the new body, and they did that for all the kids. And, I always sort of go to be like, I would love to upload into a cloud if it wasn't controlled by capitalists. But the question would be like, would it just be a copy of me or actually me? And someone in the comments said, well, I think both versions would be legitimately have a claim to being you if we were able to fully upload. And I don't disagree with that. I think both would have a full claim of being me, but they would not be me in the sense that I am the version of me that exists, right? This consciousness, this continuity of consciousness is probably always going to be stuck in this body. And even if I uploaded myself into a server or whatever, that would, I would say that would have an equal claim to being me. It has my memories, my abilities, as long as there's ability to have like a, do like it actually is uploading a consciousness in some regard, but it wouldn't be me to an external viewer. Both would have legitimate claim to being me. And I think that that's correct, but my continuity of consciousness would still be stuck in this body. So that's kind of an interesting sort of question, and there's so much more you can get into with that I'm not going to dive into here, but I always found that to be a particularly interesting thing to talk about within all of these. The only other thing here to really quick mention, speaking of, actually, I should mention, speaking of control and, trans metaphors, again, this show, I think that a lot of this stuff is hitting very similar to themes of trans issues. That's why I love, like, talking about robots and androids and uploading consciousness, because it does touch upon all of very similar transhumanistic, transgender themes. They all kind of overlap with each other. I don't necessarily know if Noah Hawley was intentionally writing it as a direct transgender metaphor, but certainly there are parallels that I always vibe with in these kind of stories. And one of those is we get the character of Isaac choosing his own name. He wants to name himself after a scientist, and Kirsch allowing him to do that. And again, it's choosing identity, choosing self. So again, some very trans-coded themes within that. So loving all that shit. But the last thing to mention here is Arush and Morrow, with Morrow easily manipulating Arush, again, talking to him through like these big philosophical questions of like, oh, are you choosing loyalty or are you choosing morality? Morality, like basically like spinning philosophical webs around this kid. They're interesting philosophical questions, but this kid is not really equipped to really understand them or the consequences of his actions. And so Morrow is kind of pushing him further than this kid understands the consequences for, both philosophically and practically, and the danger he's putting himself in and the danger he's willing to put others in, that by pushing this kid, by threatening this kid's family and saying, pushing him, now he's probably going to use Wendy's brother, pushing him to use Wendy's brother to get the xenomorphs out, and literally killing Wendy's brother by getting the xenomorph in him. So very interesting questions here. I do kind of assume more than likely Wendy's brother will probably, his physical body will get killed at some point and he'll be uploaded as well, and we'll see if he survives or not, being older than Wendy was. But I think that that's probably where this is going to end up going. Maybe Boy Cavalier as well. So yeah, so interesting stuff going on with Morrow there. I'm always curious to see where he's going to go. He's a very fascinating character in how he sort of knows how to manipulate a kid because he's been a dad, but he's using it to get what he wants and sort of spin webs around the child. And I also really like that Kirsch is looking in on this too. Oh, also interesting thing as well. Sorry, I'm just ranting here. The eye monster that takes over the goat or the sheep, I guess. Cool. Very cool. Love that weird shit. Body horror fun times. Very fun. So yeah, and again, it speaks to like that eye monster is controlling the sheep, which is kind of what Boy Cavalier likes to do. He likes to control people and dictate their bodies. So very similar overlap is there as well. So that's kind of everything. Like I said, I'm sure I missed something here or there. I've got a billion things going on, so apologies if this was a bit faster. There's so many philosophical conversations that I could really dive into with this show in a much deeper way. So hopefully I'll get to talk about those more next week with y'all. Let me know in the comments if there's anything I missed that you want me to talk about. Hopefully I will see you all at Dragon Con if you are able to be there. But the rest of you, I all hope you're all taking care of yourselves. I already pre-recorded my Strange New Worlds review, so that'll be out later this week. I've already seen the screeners of it, so I'll be on the be on the lookout for that episode. That episode's a doozy. So those will be on schedule, but Peacemaker, I will not be reviewing this week, and I'll review episodes 2 and 3 next week. And all that, I hope you all, my friends, live long and prosper.